Hello everyone, it is a Thursday afternoon. I've already been cranking out code for about 8 hours today, and so you get the side effects and the advantages of that type of a day. Some days it makes me sharper, other days it goes, what happened? And I kind of just phase out. So if you see me, nudge me, whatever. No, if you see me, do that. Okay, so jumping right in. Yesterday we worked on the plugins, and we're going to continue a bit of that today, but also I did a big jump in on the some of the error reporting back to the user and stuff, because when errors happen on the plugins, they need to know on the user side of it. So I had to capture the fatal errors and compiling errors and anything else that happens on the back end, and make sure that you're actually seeing it on the screen so that you have something you can work with. So that's what I started this morning, and I'm going to continue on that process first with the error reporting. And once we get that all lined up in place and happy, then we can jump in and continue on with the plugins and start working on maybe some hooks today. We'll get them activated and then get them with some hooks. So with that, we're going to jump right in onto the code page and okay, so let's see. What do I got here? Okay, first things first. What I did was, just like we created the plugins page, I created a page that is specifically for error reporting. We'll play around with that some more later on, as in what the actual page does. But notice how what it is just error page in our full page, basically a init session. This is our main class for bringing up a page. And salutations, yes, hey. Real live Twitch. Yeah, you got it, definitely. Great feedback, yeah. Well, welcome aboard, and just getting started here. And what I've got is I did some work, created an error page, and basically I am, instead of having to jump back and forth to my server logs and stuff, got my coffee too, so yeah. Goes from coffee to iced tea and back and forth. Okay, so with that, we have, what I'm doing is I'm tracking down, there were some errors that were happening, and so I decided, okay, it's time to do this. And what I did was I created on shutdown error. Basically, this is the process that it runs when it happens. And then I try to trap all these different types of error codes. Any one of those come through, then I want to tell it, those are the kind I can handle, and I'm basically telling it what to do. In this case, I check to see if the form is available, which is if you're in the admin side of things, which if you started a new plugin or anything like that, you would be in the admin, so more than likely that's where it's going to detect it and either have a problem or not. And if you're on the public side viewing it, you're not necessarily going to, we don't want to show you errors anyway. We're going to show you the best guess at how it should have been working the whole time anyway. Okay, so I grabbed that error, and then I'm also writing it to SQL. A few minutes ago, it wasn't writing to SQL when I tried, so I had to do some things, and then I found out where I was making a mistake, and it didn't appear to be this part, so I think that I'm able to actually cancel out and get rid of this chunk right here. Goes from there to there. And then I can actually do, just like I normally do in my error class, I can actually just tell it to run an error and pass the message. So we're going to try this. And that is WTWDB is the class that we're using for this error. We're going to pass the error and see if it actually makes it in there. I purposely put a error into the plugins page. What I did was I put this word test error in here, and it basically has no function. So it's going to say function not found, and that kind of builds us a way to do it. Notice we have some errors in here. You know what? I'm going to delete those just so we have some type of thing saying, hey, that's what we got to, and it worked or not or didn't or whatever. Okay, so now when I try to load this page, first of all, no errors, the page loads, and we haven't hit that function yet, so we're still, everything looks good. and we go to run the plugin function, and we click on the plugin function. I put something out here, and guess what? It did not trap it over here. Okay, something did, okay, it was happening over here. What did I mark out, or what did I change? Because I was getting, oh, wait a minute, make sure I'm doing this. Okay, it is the iframes page. Console log error is hitting it right here. And, oh, it's not doing this step because this actually fails. Okay, so we already know that isn't going to find that class on an error. I think what happens is it's one script, one shot at dumping what you want on the screen, because technically it's already had an error and it's a fatal error, so it's trying to stop the screen. So the only thing is it's actually just doing what it can before it closes out. So it's not actually able, for some reason, it's not actually able to grab this particular information. So when it tries to do it, well, I'm kind of at a, you know, where I'm going to try one more thing before I do that. And I've changed that for that. Well, you know something, that should have caught it. That's the only piece that I've done down here. And this particular part worked. Oh, I added slashes. Okay, so I think our error may have the slashes in it. Let me try that one more time with adding slashes to this, because what's happening is I know that the error has a path, and it's the escape character, so it's basically chopping that up. So I want to see if that's going to work, passing on the error to our error reporting. So testing one more time. Let's go back to this page, refresh the page, and we have admin, plugins, and no, we didn't even get that far this time. Funny. It does not like that function, I swear. Okay, so it won't pull the class is what's happening at this level. So I'm going to take the class out. I'm going to take that out right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to go ahead and attempt to write it to the database, but also show it to the screen. So what we have there, the only reason I put the ending tag for the script after the database call is because if there's a connection failed where it couldn't do the connection, I wanted to report that back and tell you that also. And so that'll catch those kind of errors. So let's see, does this all function now that I've told it this way? Okay, plugins, all plugins, and there's my error. So yes, it can do it that way. And let's double check. See, it didn't like calling the class. And so it even wrote it to the database, which is fine. That's what we wanted it to do. It's an uncaught error, and it tells us exactly what it is, tells us where it happened, and all the data that goes with it with the stack trace. This information is actually the exact same information that we're putting here. So they see it on the screen, but it's also logging into their database. So if there's any problem, they can look back at the database. The good thing about the database is it also has a log date. So you can see if it was a while back or if there's something going on with it or whatever. But this field, you know, tells us pretty much what we want to see and breaks it down for us. So that worked. That's a good error trapping. That'll catch it for us and write it to the log. So let's see. Okay, I don't think there's any way to get around this particular thing where it told us there's a 500 error on that page. But the good news is since it brought it here, it doesn't matter that it showed that in the log, in the console log. Okay, so the next thing is, I was trying to look at this and decide, is there any rhyme or reason to, if I try to, like, you know, look for the word stack trace and put a line break before it or a couple, or, you know, I could do some things like that. I could do a couple replace commands, see, there's not real logic in some of this anyway. I think if I showed that on the screen, a developer's going to know what it is, and I don't have to put the line breaks in. I could separate the stack trace because that's going to be the second part of whatever the error is. Yeah, that's just an option. See, watch. It'll just start a new line. That's all I'm thinking on that line. And that's only for the part that is shown on the page, which is this one right here. So I can do a string replace, and we're going to replace this with that. So fancy, right? Okay, crack myself up. Yeah. Okay, so now doing that same error, it's a little bit of help on the format of it. We can play around with that much more intelligently next time. See, it broke it. Now it's PHP line 82, and I knew stack trace is the next part after it. Then it looks like a semicolon, but I don't want to start breaking up semicolons because anytime you have a link or something like that, it'll automatically break those up too. I could look for the using a parentheses with a semicolon after it, but a colon after it. I mean. But, something like that, I can do it. We'll see. We'll play around with that later on and see if that's worth doing or not. But in the meantime, this kind of helps us out, and we get the error to the page. So now this process that I've created here, what I need to do is there's a second place where we need to do this, but we won't need to do the JavaScript part of it. This particular one, I wanted it to be there because it's actually the JavaScript that happens behind the scenes on the iframes pages, so we can bring up the code and see what happens. When it happens on one of the connect pages, there isn't any JavaScript being called at the time, and it's a JSON page, so you can't really have the JavaScript show up through those pages. So we would want to do just the log in that case. So I'm going to take this same shutdown function, and I'm going to copy it here, and then well, let's see. We have function shutdown on error. I think I need to name these a little bit more coherent because this one is specifically for, there's 3 different kinds, and I'm going to need to name them. This particular, whoops, helps if I look in the right site, huh? There we go, find all. And the reason is I do have 3 different shutdown functions based on which page you call it from. So in this case, we're doing shutdown on error. We're going to say shutdown on error iframe, just so we have some type of uniqueness about this one. Okay, so that'll be that function. Then on this one here, we have shutdown on error. This particular one is going to be our main class one, so we're in that class on that one. And then what I'm going to create is one specifically for the connect class, which will be used by all of our connections, all of our JSON calls. So in here, this particular one doesn't even have a well, this one, let's see, we've got the class. Let me put it at the bottom of the class like I did the other file. Right after session start, because we may want to grab session variables or sometime or whatever if we need to. Okay, so, and then we'll call this one, what am I in? Connect. Okay, and what I'm going to do on this one is I do not need any of this JavaScript for here. Okay, and we get rid of that try catch, and then we're not going to pass this error to here either. I'll leave it just as saying error. It won't matter. We're not doing anything with it. And take that out. Chocolate goes with awesome. You know it. What was it if you asked Siri, what's the answer to all of life's questions? It says chocolate. Or what's the meaning of life? Yeah, that's it. What's the meaning of life? It says chocolate. Okay, so that'll insert into the database the record and the error if it happens on the connect page. And the only thing we have to add is this register shutdown function before that. So let's go into our connect page. Is there a particular place? Am I calling anything in this process? Init class, there we go. So init class, when it inits the class, we're gonna take that first line and we're going to make it be this. Instead of iframe, it's connect. Okay, so now we have some type of way of trapping the errors on those two pages. This particular one is the init session that happens for the actual, well, it's happening for the actual pages. This is another little thing I added on error handling that happens there. Let's make sure it's happening in the init class too. Did I do before or after the, oh, just before it? Okay, this is making sure that we're throwing all of our errors so that every one of them just get counted. So that includes other errors, and then the next line includes all the other stuff. This one tells it to catch all the fatal things. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on the iframes page when we call that one. Okay, so now we're getting all the errors. Just to make sure that I didn't just screw something up, we'll refresh that page. And plugins, all plugins, and we're still good and golden, it's working. So now we have a way to catch, trap, and log the errors. And we should have more entries here. Yep, 3 times I refresh the page, and there we go. Or click the play button, or that button on there. Okay, so we've trapped the errors. The other part is when I do, since I already know this is the one that works for shutdown process, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go back to my init session page. On the bottom of the page here, when I complete, when I complete all this stuff, I was starting to write the function and get this all squared away and everything else. And like I said, I started testing it from the iframe page because that's where the errors were actually happening. Now, in this case, I don't need to check for parent because we are on the parent. That's why I had to change up the code. So we'll just do it that way. And now, if something were to happen at the admin page level or browsing page level, this one will pop up the error for the admin page level because this particular item is only being shown on that level. So the JavaScript basically says look to see if that exists. If it does, fill it in and open it with this. So we won't have that on other cases. We're good to go. We log the errors no matter what, so that will help that part. And the only thing I have to do is take off the word iframe here. And now we have all 3 of those in place. Okay, so let me make sure we didn't break anything before I move on. It's always a good test. Okay, so we do have our admin menu, we have our plugins, and there we go, our plugin page is broken. Then we come in here, decide what line 82, just like it said. Take that line out of play. And now if I click on all plugins, okay, refresh the page. I was curious. I was curious because it calls an iframe page. Oh, what do we got? WalkTheWeb plugins. Line 82. That's exactly what I just did. Did I breathe on it weird? No. Okay, let's go Control F5 again. Make sure we're getting the new version. Did it just hesitate? And there we go. There's our listing of the things. Now, I threw these things on here, but that's not what I need to show. Let's start decorating that up a little bit and deciding what we're going to do. The first one is I need to open a couple pages here. It's in my uploads directory, so it's not in the typical path. Like I said before, there's a good 500 images sitting in the uploads directory right now. So every time I do a search across the site, try to find something in my code, I didn't want it to search that file, so I did an alias on the uploads directory so that I can move it out of the way. And because I did that, now I can actually come in here and work with these files separately. I mean, quick searches, and I just have to go to this other directory for getting these files that are the live active ones. Okay, so those are a couple different fields that I've added so far. We know we're going to want, well, let's put them in a different order just to do it nice and clean. Let's go in here and go description. Description equals, I don't care about the spaces around the thing. We did a trim, so it's going to get what we need it to. What is the description? You know what? I'm just going to, for now, put that. Well, actually, description, plugin name, blah, 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 blah. Okay, description, I'm going to say handles the player functionality. A-L-I-T-Y-K. There we go. Functionality. And multi-player. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to add a description onto this one. And that'll just be, this is just a test plugin. Okay, now let's go back to our plugin code and let's add some support for those two new fields. We're going to say right here, do it in a certain order just for the sake of it. Description, and then we're going to say description here. Okay, we can probably automate this stuff so we don't have to actually correct that. I think we can just automatically just add the items to the array without having to predefine the array. You know, when you need chocolate, you need chocolate. I got you. I totally understand that one. Okay, so that's all good for that. Now we should be returning the extra field, and if we go to our JavaScript page, where we're actually showing this stuff, I put it on the very bottom of the page so I wouldn't have to bounce all over the place looking for it every time. And now we have, we can use that field too. So let's play around with the format a little bit here. I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to break this up just so that we can see items easily, and it's just going to make it easier to, well, actually, I don't even have to do it that way. Yeah, it doesn't matter. One way, half dozen in the other. If I break it up or just do one line and have it span multiple lines, same thing. Actually, it is. Let's do it that other way. Okay, so if I start with not doing that, and, well, actually, you do have to. And, oh, I already did that. That's why. Okay, yeah, it's going to want the extra lines. Let's just do it. Okay, here we go. And then on the end, and we'll do this. I'm just making it where I can see the rows so I can work with them a little easier. Once we get it set, who knows, I may just tear that back out just to be all in one line. Doesn't matter. But for now, it makes a lot of sense to do it that way because I'm going to do the same with these. And get each one of these in place. The reason is I can match up my column names if I need to name something with what's going to be in that particular place. We'll add some stuff and see what we can do. Okay, that takes care of those fields, and oh, that is me. You got it. Oh, actually, no, that's my wife. Sorry, I read the question wrong. Okay, and that takes care of those. Okay, so we get the column names and then we get this in place. What I'm going to do is now start thinking about how we want this to lay out, and so we can add some more stuff to it. The first thing I'm going to add to it before we play around with the piece. Okay, so that just did the same thing and it all worked, which is a good sign. Okay, and what I want to do is in here, we're going to check now that we have a plugin name. So for each one of these parts that are valid here, I'm going to want to run a check and actually see if they're activated or not. So we're going to create something, and we're going to create a couple different things here. First thing is this structure. and then close it out. Okay, so plugin, get plugin active. We're going to find out if it's active or not. We'll pass a couple values in here, and then we're going to return some values that we can write into this particular area up here. We want to do that actually after. We'll check the various ones and then add that piece if needed. Okay, we'll do some things. I love it. I love working with programmers. They understand the lingo. They understand the job. They understand the multitasking. Yeah, we get this down. We got this. Okay, and let's see. Okay, so you know what? That's not a great place to be doing that. But what I'll do is I don't want it to be within the. We want to call it. Where do I want to call this? I don't want to repeat this multiple times. I only need to repeat this once per plugin. Yeah, okay, what am I thinking? Yeah, I just need the plugin once. So I just need to know that it was found and it was one of the, that the file has at least some data involved, and then I just need to run this once. So based on if it found this stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually say right here, we're going to say found equals false, and then over here in this part I'm just going to say found equals true. Now I know that it's found, and over here I'm going to say if found, then I'm going to run this process down here on it, and we'll decide what we want to put in there. It's going to be part of this class. Whoops. Okay, whoops. Jeez. Keep me sane. Like I said, going on, this is about it's over 8 hours of programming already today. So, okay, what I'm going to pass here is we need the plugin name. I'm just thinking out loud here. Plugin name. Do we need anything else? Plugin name should be unique. We're going to make them unique. That should help with that piece. You know what? Instead of found, I don't need to do found. I just need to do the plugin name. That would work. That would make sense. We'll just do plugin name, because then we either have one or we don't, and then we can go from there. So instead of that, we're going to do it right here. If it's case plugin, then plugin name equals, and it will be, okay, we need to Z part. We're going to do, you know what, I can do, yeah, I just need this piece to be before there. It wouldn't hurt if I do both. Oh wait, no. I only want to write these. That was the part that I did need over here. Sorry. And found doesn't need to be there now. Plugin name equals Z value is what it's going to be. And it's only when it is the plugin name, so that should pop the plugin name in there. If they do the word plugin name twice on their things, then basically it'll grab the last one. So if they do more than one, they're going to get the last one of the group that they do. So we're going to go with, or I could read the file bottom to top, and then we always get the top one. But no, it's okay. If not empty and is set. Okay, then we're going to pass this. It's not Z value, it is plugin name, sorry. And that's going to be right here, and we're going to pass it into here. So, knowing the plugin name, now we're going to pass that here. and get rid of the second part. And then we're going to do a check to see what exactly we need, what we get. I'm going to return the Z response that we're doing from this one with the other value of if it's active or not based on this. So that's where I'm heading with this. So I'm going to set Z response blank at the top here. Actually, yeah, okay, we'll do it this way. Z response equals, we could do true, false for active. Yeah, that'll be it. So we'll go false, and then we're going to check to see if it's true. Then, actually, we'll make it more. Okay, like I said, going on the top hours here. Okay, we're going to do this, and what we're going to do is we're going to do response. We're going to do something like this. And we're going to make it response. In this particular case, it will be active, and we'll just add that to the list. Oh, we already have active. See, I was already thinking ahead. Okay, and active will be what we get back from this function, which will either be a true or false. And now we're just going to do a thing. Oh, dude, I can totally relate to you on that one, because when I was writing at the county, they love blackberries. People still own those things. And they used to have us write all this stuff to make BlackBerry apps. And of course, you know, just Java and doing the whole thing. I did my share, didn't, yeah. Yeah, you either have curly hair, you pull it out just from, yeah, so you shaved your head yesterday, perfect. You know, saves from pulling out the hair, it's probably less painful. But yeah, I can totally relate to that one. It's yeah. Z response equals, and we'll go with W2WI frames, and we're going to run a query, and of course we're going to query a database that doesn't exist yet. So let's add a table, or not a database, a table that doesn't exist yet. So create table. This one's going to be called W2W underscore plugins. Plugins, that's all it's going to be called, plugins. About as straightforward as you can get. We're going to give it a plugin ID, and I always like my varchar 16s, and it's going to be a unique ID, of course. Oh, there it is, sorry. And then we're going to put plugin name, and that one, I do these 256 or 255 characters, but you know something, if somebody does a plugin name that long, they deserve what they get. It's going to screw up all the layouts and everything else, but I'm not going to be the judge of that at this point in time. Okay, so plugin name, and then we have, what else do we need? Active. Well, active would be loaded. No, found would be loaded, and then active would be we've installed the plugin. Blah, 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 blah. Jeez. I know. Where's my cheat sheet? What did I want to do with these? And let's see. Going over to the outside of the screen here. Let's see. What do I want it to do? Okay, we'll just call it active. We're going to call it, I like using integer fields because, you know what, I always end up adding some other field to it or some other number later, and it ends up being whatever. So I'm going to do this. Then we'll do my typical fields. Okay, from any of these tables. Oops, table maintenance, hit the wrong key. Told you it's later in the day and I've been coding all day. Okay, I want from here to there. I'm going to copy that, drop it in, not there. Drop it in here and paste that there. That gives me my extra tables. That one's. Do I need anything else in here? Just active, and the path is going to be totally predictable because it's always going to be in the same location, so I don't have to worry about that part of it. I'm going to leave it at just that for now. We can always add a field if it ends up being something we need. Okay, so I'm going to apply this, and then what I want to do is, since some people are going to go crazy and load a whole bunch of plugins, what I like to do is come in here and, where did I just put it? Refresh. Plugins, there it is. And now I want table maintenance. We're going to throw in an index just so it has one. Indexes, what I like to do. Whoa, that's not what I wanted to see. What did I get? Just the table? No, this is all. That's all the indexes. Let me try this again. Plugin, table maintenance. I think that's what. Yes, indexes. Okay, this is all my indexes. That's not what I was looking to do. Tables, okay. I know what I need. Table inspector, I'm clicking the wrong thing. Told you it's been a long day. I was like, this is not what I was expecting to see. Okay, so table inspector, what I'm getting here is we have indexes, and now this is what I expected. I want to index the name, then the plugin, then the active. We're going to do it. Create index for select columns. We don't need to know, we're not going to be sorting it by create date or doing anything like that. We're going to just basically put them in the order of the plugin name. You know what? I don't even need that much. Let's just do plugin name and the plugin ID together. That will have us a little piece of index that will make these things run a little faster. And then I'm going to shorten this name. Okay. Plugin names, and that should give us a nice little thing. Okay, so now that we have that in place, now what I'll do is I take this here and SQL, well, let me get a blank screen first, so it's going to dump it here. And I SQL create statement to here, and so this one gives us everything with that in place. Now plugins, going to go right before roles in our table. We have tables here, and mode points plugins is going to be right here. So I'm going to drop the copy of that there, and then do this kind of thing with it. Copy that, and then this afterwards. Copy that to here, and now I can line this up a little bit better. One of the things I haven't created yet or haven't done yet is a table diff type thing, but considering we won't need it till the very first time we try to update the database after the thing. I did work on so that we can update all the code, so that part's in place, and it can actually download and update itself if you have write access into your own directory. So otherwise, it'll let you manually download the code and then basically dump it in its directory anyway. Monday, when I release the code, I do plan on starting with a code walkthrough. So I'll tell you what each thing means. I'll tell you about all the subdirectories. We'll talk about the different parts and how it all comes together. And I'm going to do a complete walkthrough on that side of things and then jump right into demos. So we'll do a little bit of both and see what we can't do. And of course, anytime I'm going to do demos, that also means I'm going to show you how I can break it and parts that need to be worked on still. Okay, so let's see, table, and it's not WTW, that's the prefix, so we're going to take that off. And also the unique key. So if somebody loads this up into the table, we need to know that the unique and the index are their own unique names so that you can load it more than once in the same table. So now this one, we're just going to update that right there. So it'll look to see if plugins is there, and it'll basically create the table if it isn't. So that takes care of that. That'll be for the new install. Like I said, we got to do some type of table diff by the second release, just so that we can always have it check everything and know all the different fields that it needs to do. But that will be in due time. Okay, so we've gotten our new table. The next thing I need to do here is we're going to write a query against that new table, and that will be select. And do I need anything more than the active? I don't need to actually even know the ID of the plugin name, because plugin names are going to be unique. Probably should have made it the unique key field. That would have been smart, but I'm not necessarily going to do that right now. I like my key fields for whatever reason. I'll just double check when we put something in or out of the database, and we'll work from there. But okay, so I can make it unique. Actually, I can set it for unique in the database too. That's the other part I'll do. But I'll do that later. Okay, so select. I'm only going to select active right now. Is there anything else I want to do? We just need to know if it's active. I don't think I'm going to try to throw any other fields in here, like dates or anything. Oops, sorry. Yeah, I don't need... We don't need any dates or anything at this time, like when they created it or anything. So select active from... I am really struggling to be non-brain dead today after so many hours, but hey, that's what happens. So plugins, from plugins, where plugin name equals, and then we're going to check for this particular name. And I'm also going to make sure it's not case sensitive. So we're actually going to look for lower matches lower. That'll take care of in case somebody does have... My database isn't set up for... my database isn't set up for case sensitive, but somebody could be. And deleted equals 0. We're not going to call them active if they've been deleted. So that takes care of that. And okay, so from there we now have, we'll get that answer back. Here we need to do what we do. I just need to put table prefix there. That's all I need to do. So let's see, iframes, there's always one handy. Table prefix right here. And put that here. Oh, missed it by a line. Try there. Okay, so now that'll check for that, and based on the response, as row. I know I put a Z in front of everything and then I did the words row. You know what? We can fix that right now. And copy find in files. I'm going to do a find all across the site. And just double check visually. I never replace something without kind of at least seeing where it's going to hit first to make sure it's not going to hit anything it shouldn't. And I'm pretty certain this one's going to be pretty good. Okay. And so far so good. I was consistent with only using the word row for rows after we bring back an array of values. Let's see, we're good on those. And I'm almost through these. Okay, we're still doing good, still doing good. Now, what were those ones right there? Okay, that's all good. And if it wasn't for highlighting, what would we do? Okay, those look good. Almost there, almost there. Okay, couple there, couple there. I kept saying I was going to fix this, so it's good as time as any. And there are no other alternate spellings, endings, things that I'm tweaking that I shouldn't. So far it looks good. It's just bringing back the rows from the database in the array, and then cycling through them. I was very persistent on how I did that. Consistent, persistent, whatever. A little bit of both. Okay, those look good. We're almost there, almost there. And we... Wow. Okay, those are all good. I know they are. If I'm familiar with where they're happening in the code, then yes, these are all good. Okay. Okay, so we're going to do copy find that, find, and we're going to replace that with 0. And I know 0 sounds like 0. Okay, so replacing files, and we fixed all those at once. How many is that? 2,886. Nice. Okay, they're taken care of. And now we'll go through this, and the only thing we're looking for is if. Let's see, we're going to do if, first of all, if it's empty, we need to know if something got deleted out of a database. If the database was in my hands and I confirm what goes in, then I don't worry about what comes out. But anytime it comes from somebody else, is not empty. Okay, actually, if it's empty, it would be a 0. So we're going to check and see if it's empty, and we'll do 0 / and we're going to be checking for active. If that, let me just copy that. Or not is set, then we know nothing's there. Well, technically, I need to know if it's a 1. So, because it's false otherwise, and so I didn't test for false. We're going to switch this around. That and is set. If it's active, not empty, and it's set, then if this equals 1. And then we're just going to set zActive equals true. Okay, so that should put that in there where we expect it. Now we know I could use 1 for active in the plugin, because what I'm getting is plugin active. Why did I thought we already set the value over here? Whoa, time warp or something, or I did it on the wrong page. What's going on? Did I? Okay, never mind. Because I remember even highlighting this and going, yes, I have. Oh, there it is. Wow, I put that in the wrong place. I told you it's been one of those days. I've been coding a lot of hours, and I just lost that. Okay, so response active equals this. You know what? I'm going to send back a 1 instead of a. It just makes more sense, and I'm going to force it a 0 otherwise. I have my reasons. It just is easier to test. I don't have to test and then replace it and do anything with it. This way we know we're always getting a 1 or 0, and it gets about as easy as we get. Okay, so the only time I'm setting it to 1 is if that's 1, and we're good to go. Okay, I would just read it out of the database and do that, but what happens if they deleted the answer out of the database, or if they put a 3 in a numeral field, you know, whatever. I'm making sure that I'm getting what I expect out of there. So then we should know now if it's active and if it found it in the database. Just because it found it doesn't mean, you know, there's a difference between not found and that. So what I could do, we don't have to until it's actually active. When it's active, that's when we'll actually put it in the database. So the next thing will be is we're going to want to go from our page over here, our JavaScript, and the next thing I want to know is if it's active or not. We're going to create a button, and then we're going to tell it what we want to do, if it's active or not. So, okay, we will, I'm going to make it a separate line just because of convenience. Since I'm going to be doing an if statement right there, it's easier to see it if I do it at the beginning of the statement. So we'll do it here, and I'm going to be using a button design we've already used, which was in our user stuff and our alias pages that we just did a couple days ago. Okay, I know. It is right here. Okay, I want the design of the button, so I'm basically just not going to code it from scratch. I'm just going to grab our same styles and everything that we used for the edit button here. And all we did was that little piece there. It's technically not a button, but we made it a button by making it a class that looks like a button. It's a div tag. Okay, so we're going to go back down here. And based on if it's active or not, we're going to tell it what to do. So the first one's going to be if else, and then we're going to need something like this, and this one will be activate, and the other one, well, we'll worry about this stuff here in a second. Let's just get some of this formatting in place. And so that's one version of it, and then we're going to do a second one. We'll just put I could make it really bad to notice and put just the word D, activated or activate. We could do that. Yeah. How many people are going to miss that? I'll have to do some with the colors. Don't worry. I'll make it where it's a blue button, and then I think I have a yellow button that can be there. That will decipher between the two different things. I'm not going to delete this completely out of here, but I am going to make it. Actually, let's undo that. What I want to make that is, we're actually going to put the plugin name there because we're going to pass the plugin name if we want to activate it or change it. So we'll leave that, and we're going to create two different functions, so I'm not worried about what those functions say right now. And basically, I just want to know if it's active or not and be able to see the different colors on the different functions. Okay, so next piece is we need if z this active equals 1. Okay, so from that we should get a blue or yellow button, and right now they should both be yellow, but let's go ahead and see something happen, and it should be at the end of the column there. Plugins, and we have activate button. Yay! Okay, so the next part is we will now tell it to activate. The first thing, let's just see if it does what we wanted it to, which is change colors. Woot woot! Yeah, you know it. Active multiplayer, you know it. That's where we're heading. We have multiplayer already in there. There's a couple, I need to fine tune it. I need to adjust a couple things on it, but it actually does do multiplayer, and we've walked around with multiple people in the scene before, so it is in there. I just need to, I'm going to test it some more and kind of clean it up a little bit, but it is working. So on Monday, it will have multiplayer running on it. So that's really cool. And it'll be the first plugin that you actually load up with it. So I'm going to see if I can't bust that out this weekend. Going to work a long weekend. I probably won't be on here on Saturday and Sunday, only because releasing the code on Monday, so I want to just crank at it and not even think while I'm working. So do what I have to do. You know how it goes. Okay, so in here, actually we don't even have the plugin in there. Okay, we're going to do the process. We're going to create the process that does it. We're going to call this one activate plugin, and then we're going to create one deactivate. Okay, plugin. I know sometimes when I'm trying to spell while typing, for some reason doesn't play nice with my brain. So okay, here we go. We're going to write two functions. First, getting our little format here in place. We're going to first write the one for activate. And this is going to be the plugin name. N-A-M-E, jeez. And okay, activate plugin. And then we're going to write, copy. There's going to be a activate plugin complete. And we'll do something with that after. Well, you know what? Am I going to need anything there? No. The only thing I actually need to do is from the code behind, I can actually tell it to, I know what I'll do. I'll just tell it to refresh the page, because once you refresh the page, you already get the new version already activated and it shows everything the way it should. So there's no reason for me to come back here and then manually tell it to do that anyway. That is the process that I'm going to be doing. So first things first, what we want to do is we're going to tell it to pass a variable back to behind the scenes, and we're going to have an iframe turn on that piece. And that's why I wrote these little pages that do this, because it simplifies making changes without updating the screen that's active in front of you. So that's kind of why I did it. The other part was whenever I uploaded files, no matter what I did, it always chopped away at what I was doing. So the only thing we need in this page, okay, so this one, we have its own class. We have its own iframe, I believe. I already created that, or, whoops, where am I looking? Let's look a little closer to home here. Iframes, we have plugins. Yes, I do have its own page already. Good. That's what I wanted. See, sometimes I'm already ahead of the game. I'm already past what I thought I was going to be. And this will be activate plugin. Okay, just like the name up here, all except all lowercase. And then this will be the plugin name. And usually I create some type of thing that brings it in, but since this is only a single variable anyway, there's no reason for me to reformat a single variable when it just passes in and goes. And I'm actually not waiting for it to do anything, and nothing is waiting for the callback before it happens. So it's not like you're going to get one and somebody else, and if you do click another one, it calls another instance of the function anyway. So I don't see any reason to trim that down any farther, or make it take any more lines than it needs to. Then deactive plugin. I'm going to do both of these at the same time because they are so close to what it's going to be. Notice 2-letter difference. Okay, we just got that one ready to go. Okay, now the first part is we need not Z plugin name. That's one of the things I don't want. We have T plugin name, which is the text field for the plugin name, and that needs to be on this plugin iframe page. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create one. I don't need any feedback from this one. We're just going to call it plugin, T plugin, like it said on the front. I'll make it start with a empty value, which of course is the default when you don't put anything. One of the things that I usually do, max length equals and 255. I set those in here just so that if somebody tries to send something from their own plugin that they designed, it does have something that trims it down or gives them a warning before it ever gets to the database level. It's just a little bit of thing. We still scrub the data. We still check everything on the back end. So there's still going to be a lot of stuff that happens before they ever get that to work. So, get anything feedback from that. So it's not a problem, but it is something that I am going to make sure I have in place anyway. And okay, so now the next piece, where's my JavaScript? There it is. Okay, the next thing is I have 2 buttons, so we're going to set both of those up. All I do is copy a current line that I had from a button, and we're going to just update these fields right there. And this one's going to be activate plugin, and this one's going to be deactivate. I put the names here only because if you actually look at this page and you're trying to track something in the code, it'll help somebody following the code. For myself, I try to make the button names and everything else very self-explanatory, so shouldn't be an issue anyway. But, you know, the more people that look at the code, the more you got to talk it out. Okay, so from that, then we're going to have up here case for each one of these two. And then next one, we'll just copy that again. And one will be activate and one will be deactivate plugin. Now we're going to be using the plugin class, and that's right here where we were already working. And we're going to create something that checks, actually we already have if it's active or not. We have plugin active, we already checked to see if it's active, but now we're going to basically set it active or not. Okay, so this will be set, we'll just do it as simple naming as we can. Set plugin active. And that basically, we're going to do a plugin name, and then we're going to pass one value that tells us the active value. So it's either going to be a 1 or 0 is what we're expecting. And then here it's just going to be success or failure. Okay, and the more of this framework I get together, the easier it is to pop these things out with consistency. So we have this here. We're going to basically check, first of all, when we make it active, what we're going to do is check to see if it already exists, and we're going to get the plugin ID from that particular item. The reason for doing that is I want to actually work with the plugin ID. If it exists, that may have been deleted before, and all we have to do is undelete it and take care of it. There's a difference between deactivating and deleting, so we'll have some cleanup work if it's actually deleted, but in the meantime, we're only going to worry about if it's active or not and set to delete, which means that it's not active currently. That's why the question originally was if it's deleted equals 0. So now we can do that without that deleted equals 0, and we're bringing back the plugin ID because we can actually, well, if it's already active and it's active, there's no reason to update, but yeah, if they clicked it again, then we'll tell it to do it again, I guess. That's fine. Okay, so in here, we're bringing that back, and we're going to know the plugin ID equals Z. See, I'm so used to typing row instead of rows. I'm probably going to have to fix that 2 or 3 times before Monday. Okay, 0, and it's going to be plugin ID. And then, so that looks to see if it's already there or not. I also will be adding some security onto this. All the way through my code, I have functions already written. Like if I come up here, I think I already did it up here. If not, I will though. Okay, get all plugins, that's all fine. Okay, there's some different things I check. I have functions already written for check to see if the user's admin in the role. There's all kinds of pieces in place. This weekend I'm going to be going through all those different things and checking every one of these where I can just quickly copy and paste in the function that checks the plugins and make sure that they're all set for security and also what to do if they're not. So I'm not too worried about that at this particular moment. I only want to work with the other part here, which is the functionality. So that'll be something that I'm doing over this weekend and kicking it out. Like I said, if you haven't heard, I am releasing this code open source on Monday, and it's going to begin with a walkthrough. So make sure you follow me so you know what time I'm online. I can tell you already, if it's later in the day, the whole reason was because I was coding away and I had to finish some things before I released it. So if it's early in the morning, I had a really good weekend and I was ready. So you can judge my weekend by what time I show up on Monday. But I'm going to start with a walkthrough on the code, and then we're going to start playing around. I'm going to do demos and have all kinds of fun stuff and take all your questions and everything else on Monday. So yeah, if you haven't followed us yet, make sure you follow us, and you'll be downloading code on Monday. It's a 3D CMS, lets you create 3D scenes, buildings, things, We basically are setting up the framework to do Ready Player One or anything of that nature. We can do 3D shopping experiences, and yeah, you've heard the whole deal. Okay, so back to coding, and here we go. I get the plugin ID, then the only thing I have to check to see is if the plugin ID is active. Let's see. So if plugin is not empty and is set, then basically this one means that it found it in the database, and the only thing I need to do is set active equals 1 and make sure deleted isn't 0. So we will do that particular function, which is, I'm just going to copy that line right there. Okay, and this one's going to be update plugin. I didn't type ID, I hit enter. Plugin ID set set active equals, it's a number, 1, and then deleted date equals null. Dang, I typed 2 L's, come on. And then deleted user ID equals blank, and deleted equals 0, where plugin ID equals, and that will be this plugin value. And I'm also going to put limit 1. I know it's my ID field. I know that's redundant, but it's something I learned a while back that actually helps prevent against SQL injection. If for whatever my scrubbing method and everything else does not clear this perfectly, and they tried to do some SQL injection or something, then limit 1 means whatever they did is limited by one thing. So one record. So it minimizes damage whenever you can get away with doing something like that. So if I'm only expecting one field, I tend to put limit 1 after it because it is a deterrent against SQL injection. Else, we're going to insert, which means we're going to first create an ID. So WalkTheWeb, iframes, get random string 16,1, and that should allow me to get the random string from that. That's going to be the plugin ID. So that gets an ID, and then we're going to put it in here. You got it. And you know something, I really, I've always done that whenever I code. I've always been watching out for things and kind of being protective over whatever I do. But knowing that it's going open source and the code is going to be in somebody else's hands, whole nother issue. Making sure that it's even to a nth degree of, trying to prevent as much stuff as possible. It doesn't mean I'm going to be able to be perfect. And going open source, the good news is other people are going to be able to take a look at it, and we can all work together to make it the best it can. And, that's part of it. That really is part of it. Okay, so we're going to take this and, oops, that is not what I want to do. Come on back here. Okay, from there, and I'm going to start with plugin ID. Let me just, so I don't miss anything. I don't think there's a whole lot to this field or this table, but it's still good to look at the code when or look at the table names while you're doing this. Plugin name, and then active. Oops. Yeah, okay. We already got active. Okay, then I do create date. This will be the actual date that it was installed originally, and then user ID. This tells you who did it. Then update date. Reason I always do that is because if somebody changes it after the thought, the webmaster or somebody who can look in the table can actually tell something, can tell who did it and when. And then of course we don't need to worry about those fields because they're all blank by default anyway, or they're all set from the table by default. So, and then we'll do values, and then we're going to plug in some values here for these. Okay, I like just copying this over. Copy that just so we get all the fields in place and the right names in the right places. And it's going to look like that when we're done. User ID we'll grab in a second here. Plugin ID is this one. Then we have the plugin name, which is something we passed into this. And I believe that's so. And I didn't put a Z in front of it and caught myself on that one. Plugin name. Okay, so plugin name's there. And just to make sure I didn't leave any other place here. Okay, so we're good on that. And notice I didn't do it here either. I really do try to do that. Put a Z in front of everything. That's some of the stuff I'll be cleaning up on over the weekend. Just making sure I did that on all the functions. It's going to be all the just tedious looking at everything to make sure it's all set. This one's going to be, and it'll be Z active. And then we're going to do now on the dates. And the last part is we want to know who the user ID is, and I think I already did that about 10 times someplace here. Not in this instance. Okay, so we'll grab that from a different page. I think it's just, you know what, I don't even have to do that. I know what it is. It's just iframe's user ID. Okay, so we will, and it'll be this. Okay, and we're going to put that there, here, and right here. That'll get us the user ID. We'll be checking to make sure that the user's still logged in and everything when this happens, so that's another part, just another piece to check down. Okay, so that does the insert, that does the update, and now all we have to do is call this function set plugin active from our plugins page, and that's going to be here. Oh, one more thing I need to do is, I was just looking at that when I did it. When this comes through, there's no validation that says anything, and it has to at least be a number, otherwise it won't work. So basically, I'm going to check up here, and I'm just going to make sure. I always like doing it right after I set my variables that are used in that function. So let's see, we have if is set, then we're good. Actually, if not set is set. I need to be able to say that it's set for 0, so I didn't do empty this time. If it's not set, then active equals 0. And that will, actually we can put quotes around it because we are, basically building a sentence in text. So I throw quotes around it, no big deal. Okay, so now we know if it's not set, then it'll automatically make it 0. If it is set, then it'll accept whatever it is. What I could do, if it's not set, else, I could do if is numeric. That'd be a good one to check because I'm expecting a number. So if it is set, I want to know that this value is numeric. If it's false, then active equals 0. So it's an integer field that we're dropping it into, so that would be a basic test just to make sure that it comes through as a number. Okay, so we've got that in place, and jumping back to here, the only thing we have to do on this is we're going to call this class. So let me put that in place, and the next part is to do underscore post. Oops. What did I just do? Okay, and then we're going to grab the fields. So it's the plugin. You know what? I should be more consistent with that from my JavaScript, just since I'm just creating this field. It's plugin name. I knew I did something wrong. It's not, yeah, it's not plugin. We already did it on the other field. It's plugin name. So we're going to put that here. And then I want to pass, well, actually, since I created two different buttons, I could have done it with one button and pass active back and forth. You know, that's probably a good idea. That would actually be... Okay, we're going to get smart here. They're so similar. Well, I have two different ones. And all we're going to do is pass the active to it. And we will pass that here. The active. Going to go in there. And then from here, we're only going to be doing active plugin and passing either a 1 or a 0. 1 for activate, 0 for not. Okay, makes more sense, doesn't it? Okay, so active plugin, and in this case, we are going to do this one as active. And back here, we'll add it here. And then we'll add the field down here. We just need a short little field. Okay, let's see, active. And that's going to be, we're only expecting 1 digit. We're going to keep it down to that until we decide that we need more. And then finally, we don't need this deactive plugin anymore, and with passing both of those, we got rid of that altogether. Anytime we can shorten the code, we do it with reason. You'll notice that I always try to do things in a way that we can, it becomes easy to read. So I may do some things longhand just because we're going to have people trying to figure out how to read it, and you know, it just definitely makes it easier to do if we do it that way. Okay, the other part here is there's, let me go to, when I call this up from the admin menu and I tell it which thing I'm trying to see, there's a particular function that I call. So what I'm doing is I'm just looking for that function real quick. I know it's in the admin menu and I know it's one of my processes here. And we have plugins, and it's this particular function. If I look for that, what I'm going to get is I'm going to find out where that particular item is right here, and that tells me if I call this, it'll refresh and show me the plugin again. So we're going to call this right here, and that should automatically refresh our page when we've completed the plugin. So let's see how we did. Take this here, refresh the page, admin, plugins, all plugins, and let's activate this one. And we missed something already. Cannot read property, open full page form. Where did I, oh, well, that would help. Okay, gotta watch the copy paste there. Which means it finished already, and when I refresh this page, you watch, it's already going to be active. Let's see if it's true or not. Nope, it didn't. Okay, we'll track this down. We'll see what's going on. So activate, and it refreshed the page. So we got through the page refresh, but for whatever reason, it didn't set the item in there. Okay, so we have active there. We passed the values, and we got plugin name there. Let's check and see at the function level, did we actually get something right here? I just want to see if it got this far. Echo, and And we're going to do a console log. And, oops. What we're going to put in there is, you know what, let's put the plugin name equals plugin name, and let's drop a second one for active. We want to know, did it do this stuff? And then we'll start checking our logic if it got that far. You know, actually we can do it in one test. Let's go a little bit farther. We're going to see if plugin name existed. That's the next variable that we have, or plugin ID, I mean. Because then we'll know, did it find it in the database, which should be false, which means it should go to this part, which we should get a get random string from this. Let me double check get random string in iframes page. And yes, that's get random string. That should do what we need it to there. Okay. So following the path, we should get a plugin ID. And you know what? I'm going to do it a second time just to see that we made it this far with a plugin ID. We'll call that number 2. Okay, let's see if we get anywhere near there with this screen here. Plugins, and we didn't call the function. Something didn't even get that far. Okay, so tracking, that's a good one. Backtracking, making up words as I go. Yeah, I'm going to be dropping this code out there open source on Monday, and I'm going to do a code walkthrough and a demo and everything else on Monday. So definitely, yeah. So follow me so you know what time I'm on Monday, but definitely, I keep saying the word definitely, and I even cringed at myself for doing that. Okay, so what we have here is that page opens on plugins. We're good to go. Let's see, active plugin, that should be the button, that should go this far. Let's do a couple telltales here. The first one, we're going to be real simple. Here 1, and then the on select, we'll say here 2. It's been a long day. I've been coding since early this morning, so let's see, going on 9 hours now and strong. I know I code 12 hours a day, but you know, when you get me online talking and trying to do this while programming on my 9th, 10th hour and stuff, then you'll start to see me do mistakes. Like a little while ago, I copied and pasted something to the wrong line, and you know, we're getting there. I'm hanging in there. Okay, so what I want to check is be active plugin. That gets hit here, and we're good there. So that should be able to push that button and process this. Okay, do I have, yes, global plugins. So that's set. Anything else that I'm missing? Nope, that should all go through there. We're going to do one more of those checks here. I don't want to type everything from scratch, but let's do this. Copy that over to here. And this one I'm just going to say button pressed. Okay, so let's see. Let's see how far that gets us now. Let's make sure that certain things are happening the way they're supposed to. Plugins, plugin, and no, it didn't. Oh wait, duh. Got to push the button first. And everything went. It even gave it this. It did not insert into the table. Okay, good to know. We made it all the way to this point. And oh, okay, something simple. Sorry about that. Helps if we put our table prefix in place. I thought about it while I was working on it, and then I turned around and got sidetracked and walked away, did something else, and next thing you know, didn't go back to it to tell it, and it's plugins, not plugin table. So that'll make a difference. And now we should get that there. Yes, right now there's a demo site. I just let you know there's a demo site that I played around with. It was my proving ground. I tried, tested, threw so much crap in there and everything else. There's a bunch of junk lingering, so use it with discretion. But you're welcome to create an account on there, create some sites, play around with it, and try a bunch of different things. That's 3d.walktheweb.com. Let me type that in the blank here. And one of the things is in the bottom right menu, if you click on settings, there's different choices for camera views. First of all, you can actually look at it with, of course, default is looking at it through a computer and you're just looking at it normal. Then you can select it for the red cyan glasses, poor man's VR. Then you can go into VR setting. You can actually set it for different VR cameras and views, one with gamepad, one without. Now, mind you, this is built over Babylon Engine. Babylon has already defined many more camera views, including Oculus and some of the major brands and stuff. They have like 8 of them, I think, set up or something. It was quite an impressive list. So after we release it, I'll start throwing in those other camera views so that you can select it for whichever one you want to use, and we should be good there. So we'll use, I'm extending out anything that Babylon did. I also give you the ability to create plugins and also use anything from the Babylon layers below, which means Babylon, which is built on WebGL, you can completely build up something from there. But the idea is that I created an environment that has a 3D CMS that lets you create scenes, then buildings, and then different things that you put in the buildings or the scenes. Now, things can be avatars, they can be vehicles, they can be furniture and trees and whatever else. They're used to decorate those other objects. But the biggest idea in my code is about as you're walking, it loads things as you get closer and unloads things when you walk away. So technically, as we perfect the efficiency of building things and keeping them the right distance apart, not loading too much at any one time and all this other stuff, as we do that, then we actually can create endless scenes. In theory, of course, that's perfection. We're not perfect yet, but we're working on it, and got about 8 years of my life wrapped up into this so far. So definitely there's first person, follow views, scene views, for behind your avatar. You can choose what type of view you want to use right there. You can choose if it's, the orientation of the camera to your avatar. Then you can choose your, 3D glasses, the VR set, or just straight 2D. Okay, and it also has mouse controls, touch controls, and keyboard. So all the gamers, we got the keyboard. You can move the arrow keys, A, S, D, W. I think I even added a Q and an E for rotating left and right, opposed to strafe on A and D. I have R and F for looking up and down. We need to perfect a little bit of that, as in how fast they rotate and turn and stuff, but that's just settings. That's just where I left it right now, so we can definitely modify those and tweak them. But also with your mouse, if you hold down your left mouse button and move it around, you can actually look all over the scene. And then if you use the middle scroll bar, you can walk forward or backwards. It's a little helpful hint for getting around. Anonymous, you use one of the robotic looking avatars. If you create an account, then you can use one of the 10 different avatars that I have in place, including the robot if you choose. But okay, so that's the basis. That's where that stuff's at. And let me keep on kicking forward with the code so we can get this done. Basically, I missed typing in the table prefix part, and that should get us through that. Let me test it, and then we will go from there. So refresh the page. And currently, I'm just telling it not to load the scene. Otherwise, behind this page, you would actually see the scene. Okay, we didn't get there, but we still got that far. Let's see, did it actually refresh? Sometimes when I refresh, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so how funny. Okay, and what I want to do is check the plugins table and see. Oh, we did write it in there. So it wrote it in there, but what happened is it didn't read it when it came back up. Active said 0. So let me see what I did on that. Let's see what value we passed to here. And actually, we did say what value. Active 0. Okay, so let me see if... could have been the problem all along. We're telling it to activate on 0, right? Okay, so let's see. Oh, that's what's being passed. So that means from here, when I click, oh, you know what? Let me double check. Active plugin. Activate plugin is, oh, it's already 1. Okay, so if we're telling it to go to 0, I have the logic backwards. If we want to activate, we have to tell it to go to 1. Yeah. Okay, but also keep in mind, that's my testing ground, and I had so much crap piled in the trash can that what I did was I took a copy of the host site, and then I started stripping out all of the testing things that I did, so that I brought it down to the core product and globalized all the variables, made it where it can be hosted anywhere, and that's what I've been working on for the past couple months. And so this code that you're seeing right here that you're going to be able to download is that refined version. I took the different test stuff that I did and I moved it to directories for plugins that I'm going to be creating in the future. So basically it stripped down the version and got it to where it needs to be. This code that I'm making right now runs a lot faster and a lot smoother than the version that's on WalkTheWeb.com right now. Okay, so keep that in mind, and Monday is the release date. I'm going to be coding away all weekend on it and get it up to pace and ready. And then Monday is going to be the big release where you're going to be able to download it from GitHub. So I've got the GitHub site all ready to go, and yeah, so now I'm just chugging through the code and adding in some extra features. I'm putting together the plugins part right now so that you can write code in a plugin and then it'll run through the system. I'll keep on adding different hooks of where you can put things in your code, like if you want to add something to the admin menu, opposed to it'll load your plugin, and I'm going to let you choose when it loads. There'll be some plugins that load all the time, is the default option, but then you can be specific to a particular community or class or something. So if you say make it where they can activate it per community or per building or per thing, then you only have to turn on your code for that plugin when they use that particular item. So there's some things I'm working with that we're going to play around with in that area. Oh, no, I totally get that. Yeah. You know something? This computer that I'm using right now, I have 2 computers. This one has a bigger, more pleasant screen for coding, but at the same time, my other computer is actually faster. And whenever I try to stream on Twitch and do the demos at the same time, it's like very iffy if it's going to make it without skipping frames. So basically, Monday I'll have the other computer plugged in over here, and I'll be working on that one. But since this one, like I said, it's friendlier for big screen with the code, my old eyes got to see everything. Yeah, walking up with the walker. No, just kidding. Okay, so... I switched those 2 items, which now should put us in the right order. So let's see what happens when I tell it I want to activate something. And go admin, plugins, all plugins, and activate. And okay, we got an error, but that's fine. I want to check 2 things here. Error text in, blah, 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 class. See, this is something I wrote just this morning, so it does actually spill the error back to the screen. So now that is working, and it did catch the error, so that's always good to know. Line 27. Error text in. Okay, so that's telling me that it didn't like my code thing that I was trying to spit to the thing. No problem there. I can work about that later. Core functions. Plugins. What did I mess up in? Set plugin active. Cannot access empty property in core functions. Cannot access empty property. Okay. What did I do? Let's see. Oh, it's not going to be in this page. It's going to be in our plugins page. And cannot access empty property. I think this must be coming up blank right now. Let me double check. Well, no, that should... I'm guessing it was the user ID. Let's see. Yeah, Notepad++, definitely. Whenever I do this stuff, I like to use something that's free because, and that another reason I'm going open source on Monday, but the other reason is because Notepad++, everybody can download it for free and use it and do the exact same thing I'm doing with it. So I use it because it's, I like to use what others can use. I'm not trying to use something that others aren't going to like, or it's not customized so crazy that you don't recognize it anymore. Okay, so let's see, where's the error happening? I know, I wrote that error out on the page and it basically added so many lines of code. Let's see, I'm going to go back to the root cause of this stuff and double check here. I know, I was testing the code that crashes it, so. Okay, so this was undefined variable s error text in frames under variables, traces. Okay, don't need the trace. I just need, that's line 27 on WalkTheWeb BB. Okay, let's get back there. I know today I wrote the error tracking, or I wrote the error catching program stuff, and at the same time working on this other piece. So basically, there's a couple pieces that may or may not like what I'm doing here. Ow. Well, that isn't a big deal. Jeez. I don't care to dump that error anyway. I was doing something else when I first started doing this. Now I'm logging all the errors and stuff, so it doesn't have a problem. Oh, it's not cross-platform. Oh, that's sad to hear. I didn't know that. But I do like it, though. It's so easy. But yeah, they should make that cross-platform. Jeez. Vim, okay, I get you. But yeah, like I said, nothing special about the program I'm using. It just works, like you said. Yeah, I do it for the same reasons. But, oh, and also, just to let you guys know, all of you that follow me and are in on Monday, by the end of the day, Monday or so, I'm giving you guys priority. So if you come up and you're writing something else, or you're doing something and you're writing code in a plugin or something, and you say, man, I really need the core to do this, or can you change this over here to this to make it work with my code, or whatever you have to do, I'm giving you guys higher priority than anybody else. So early adopters, the ones that try it out soon, and everything else, and work with us, basically definitely going to make it where you got my attention first. So make sure you follow me, and you can do that. Oh, you don't get advice using it. Okay. Let's see, advice. Kind of review service. Well, put it this way. I'm going to keep on developing this product, and I'm going to keep on creating things for it and stuff like that, and dropping out plugins and all kinds of functionality, and we're going to keep adding to it. I'm going to take a lot of your feedback and everything else. So definitely, that's what it's going to be like. So we're working basically Ready Player One and all that kind of stuff. We're working to make something that anybody can build Ready Player One and host it themselves and do it. This is a host that lets you be part of 3D Internet. It allows you to connect to other sites on the internet and bring like a building from this server, put it in your scene over here. So like you create a 3D shopping store, you can drop it in many different scenes. As for that question about Vim, I haven't used it. I've been using Notepad++, and before that, I hate to say it, but I was using Visual Studio. I know I say hate to say it. I just used Microsoft for a lot of years. County where I worked before used to use Visual Studio for everything. So basically, I did that for decades. And so now, of course, I use Notepad++. If anybody else on there can give somebody a suggestion here, give Mobster Squirrel a suggestion or something about that, please chime in. Help yourselves. Help each other. That works. Okay, so working with this stuff, though. Let's see. I didn't need that property set anyway. And that was where the error was coming in. Oh, I didn't need to do it here either. Okay, so when it pops an error, I don't need to spill that stuff. Don't lose focus, you know it. You know it. Working on 9.5 hours now since I started coding today. I usually try to broadcast about my third, maybe fourth hour into it, and go a couple hours. The longer I go, there gets to a point where all of a sudden I go, okay, time to slow down. It ain't gonna happen, ain't gonna work, and then I back off and don't do it. Okay, so we checked this. No, it didn't go active, so we did have an error in the code. And jumping back in, it was giving an error, trying to spit the error out, which is my error catching stuff that I just added. What I want to know is, does the original code actually do what it's supposed to? And it went active here. It passed the value for active, so let's see. No, it didn't go active here. So, okay, so it didn't do the update statement. Let's check back in our code. Thanks. I try. Oh yeah, I know. I've been using Visual Studio. I used Visual Studio for probably the last 15 to 20 years. And so I just wanted to change. I know it's X platform now and everything else, but for a lot of years I don't have anything to bash about them. I still like Windows servers. I still use them all the time. I do a lot of different stuff. But yeah, okay. So let's check what's going on here. Basically, it should have done the update statement. Z plugin ID should have been set. Let's check it right after this. And then if it goes number 2, then it's trying to add it again. It went number 1. Let's see. Plugin ID did not show there. Let's see what's happening with that. We should be able to see the plugin ID at this point if it got through here and checked to see if the plugin ID existed. So we have that all spelled out correctly. Yes, we do. Okay, so here it should not be empty and it should be set, and we should get it to this point. So then it's just the query, which set active equals 1. Did I type all these words right? Deleted date, null. Deleted user ID, we're good, and deleted. Okay, so we should have each one of those pieces in place. That shouldn't be a problem where plugin ID equals this. So let's run that one more time and just double check. Is it doing what I want it to or not? If not, we'll track it down. I have much better focus in the mornings, I tell you. That's usually why I broadcast while doing it. I can code longer hours, but when it comes down to it, having focus to talk and code at the same time, I think it works better earlier in the days. So I usually blame long compile times. Yeah. Okay, so it got to here. No, actually, did it get to that and say the plugin ID? No, we get button pressed, plugin name is that, and set active is 1, which means that's coming from right here. But for whatever reason, it did not do this. Okay, so row plugin ID. What is it doing wrong here? Let me see. Is it? I just gotta think. I just want to glance at something real quick. This is true. This is true. Jeez, do I ever bring any data back? Jeez. Okay, I wrote it wrong. Let me. You're writing JavaScript and PHP. Yeah. And? No, just kidding. Okay, so what I should have done was use this notation around that. If active equals 1, and then in this one, we should do the same thing right here. Okay, and I think that's it. That's as far as I was able to screw up today. Admin plugins, all plugins, and activate. Come on, do something. Okay, we got the plugin ID now. Let's see why we got one step farther. Plugin ID hit right here. This is where I stated it. So it made it to this update statement, which, active should have been 1. What I should have done also is pass Z active. Even though 1 is what I was trying to hit anyway, it should have done it, but let's still pass what we were supposed to do here, which is that, so we can change it both directions. And let's see what happened here. We have 1 active, but what we don't have is when it refreshed the page, did it refresh? No, it would have refreshed after it was finished, so let's find out what's going on that end of things. But now we have the right value in the database, so that just means our button over here isn't telling it what it's supposed to be. I tell you, getting ready to do this open source though, the one thing about it is I really had to look at stuff and go, okay, am I going to, show all this code, everything that I wrote, and get all the critics out there in the world pointing their fingers at me? And after doing this stuff for so many years, I went, okay, it's about time, let's do it. And that's what I did. So, okay, we know the statement is updating this, but what's happening is we're not getting the data back out of it to see if it's active or not. So let's go up to that function. I'm just cleaning this up since I'm here. And row active 1 equals 1. We should have got Z active and send that back to this function. And active should have been written 1 there. So let's see. Let's test this value. Let's test it right here. You got it. I like that statement. Yeah. Just got to run out of dams to give. Yeah. Well, you know something? The other part is, if you ever want to do something and get it out there for other people to use it and stuff, at some point in time, you just basically have to go, okay, I've taken this, maybe not as far as I could. I can still take it farther on my own. But do I want this out there in my lifetime or in, everybody else's lifetime? Because there's a point where you have to go, okay, I need somebody else jumping in on the code and giving me suggestions and working on stuff. And while I'm building this over here, and plus, of course, graphic designers, we're going to find some graphic designers that are awesome, and they're going to all of a sudden go, hey, by the way, here, I created this using your product. And then, it helps. It's just all different pieces of the puzzle. Okay, plugins, and what I'm checking here is they both say 0 when they came out of the database. That's interesting. Because when I run that statement, this one still says active. So it came back 0. Active equals 1. We know, here it is again. I know. When I did that, I tell you, I did it everywhere. I'm persistent about breaking my code solidly one way at a time. There we go. If we change that to that now. Okay, I'm ready for it to work. Let's see what's going to happen. And 1, 2, 3, go. Yay! We have activated. Woo! It's in the database and we said it's activated. And if I click it again, it's not activated. Woo, that's really cool. We got a button that goes 2 colors after how many hours of work? Okay, you get those days, I know. Woo, 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 yay. Okay, so the thing about it is I wrote code here that already lets me pull get all plugins. And when it does this get all plugins function, it's basically checking the status, it's checking the text file within it, or the first file, just to see. I know I gotta at least type something here. Okay, so but it's getting all the stuff that we put inside the file that runs the particular plugin. For example, multiplayer, we have this particular stuff in here so far. We're going to be able to type in, register a class. We're going to be able to do different things. I'm going to give this as a sample as a plugin with the product so that you actually have some known hooks that I already have, and it has a few things in place. So it gives you something to work with to be able to build and do different things. Okay, so with that said, that's this piece, and we're going to do some PHP code here. What it's going to do on this side is when it reads in that file, and we know get all plugins, so when it runs this process, then basically it's going to initiate each one of those plugins and whatever classes and whatever hooks they have. So that's where we're heading with this. There's two different ways I'm calling this. One of them is I get all plugins to see if new ones exist that haven't been activated. So that's going to be what we've done so far, just this page, letting us know if it's activated or not. By the way, this whole screen, the way it looks, we'll clean that up. It's not going to say this afterwards. I just wanted to spill out some of the data I was bringing back so that I can have something on the screen to work with. We'll make it look pretty later. But the idea is once it's been activated, now this screen does that, but behind the scenes, the rest of the code now turns on your plugin so that you can actually use the whole thing. So we get both sides of that coin. We get the other pieces in place. So that's where we're going. We're definitely getting there. We've activated the plugin, and this one's going to just show on this screen what it's doing using this code to just check to see which ones are active and if you drop something else in that folder and you need to run it active or not. So that's all this code does now. But what it will do is once it finds out that it's active, which we bring back here, so once we return it with active, it's also going to initiate whatever code's in that root file. If the code has includes to include other files, it'll do everything you put in there. So we have the framework in place to do plugins now. Yay! That's a cool advanced feature there. And now we can start working with what's actually going to be in the plugins and hit the different hooks. For right now, just to do it, we've got one last piece here I'm going to work on, and that is in this admin menu. What we have is I load up the admin menu and I basically grab and define it using this function right here, which is in the admin menu class. I tell it to do all these different things. I create different menu items and stuff. So for us to create one, all we would need to do is basically same type of thing. And what I do is I tell it to run a JavaScript. And you can pick whatever JavaScript you do. So in your code, you can tell it what you want to do through JavaScript, create your class in JavaScript, which I'll set up so you'll download it. You'll get an example of a great layout that works well with what I'm doing. But putting that class in there and having that all ready, and then being able to just come in here and drop a menu item just with one command. You can have the first level menu items like here, where you just give it kind of like WordPress does a slug. We have a thing. We also say what number for what menu order. Here's the name that's going to show up in the menu. Here's the order that it's going to fall into place. Then I gave it a slug, which we haven't tacked into yet, but there's reason to believe we may need to. And then we have the second level, which would be if there's a menu item that's a submenu under it. And we start creating those here, where we have, for example, setting gravity, setting focus. These are just different settings for that particular one. Like the plugins one. We just looked at the plugins menu. This is the ID of the plugin field. So you get the ID, which you can bring up in JavaScript or whatever you need to do. We get the menu item. We get the slug. We tell it the order that it's going to be. This is the 0 menu item, which means it is this level right here. And then we have a blank, which is there's no built-in submenu item on that click. And then we have the main menu items allow you to put an icon. I'll document how big they are. It's just 24 by 24. They're small. And then you get to pick your, this is going to be for permissions. And then this is basically your JavaScript that you're going to execute. So that piece in itself automatically kicks off whatever you click for the menu button. It'll kick off the JavaScript that you told it to do. So if I come in here from my class now, I'm going to just copy one of these lines, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put this line in here and say global, it's W2W admin menu, and using that class, I'm just going to say admin, and I'm going to say multiplayer. I know I get multiplayer and multi-user. I back up between those two different words all the time. I'm probably using the opposite one that I mean to use. No, multiplayer, okay. And then I can say multiplayer. This is what it'll be here. I've worn out the M on my keyboard. Every time I press it, it doesn't show up. Okay, so then I'm going to call this line 91, and we'll just call it multiplayer here. Okay, and I'll leave that blank. I'm going to leave the same icon for now. And the last part is I'm going to just going to basically spit out to console log here just to do the, there we go. And now this part would be if we execute this file fully. What I'm going to do is, if it's active, I'm going to tell it to run this code, to be an includes. So we come over, where is it? You know, I'm really traveling without a net here because I've not tested any of this. So you get to be firsthand with me to see if this works or fails when I do this. Where am I looking? In plugins, and right here, active plugin. Okay, by the name, if the plugin's active, I can do it right here, which would mean it runs it. Okay, I'm gonna, once per plugin, it hits a spot. I'm gonna blah, 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 blah. Here's where I bring it back. You know, I'm not going to do it in that test because I may need to see if it's active or not in other places. That's what I was kind of thinking through. And then here, just for now, I'm going to say require once, and then I'm going to give it the path, which in this case is content directory. We have a function I've already created for that. And not iframe, sorry. Is it iframe? Yes, iframes. Is it, did I call content? Okay, I have to look. Let me just. Content path, that's what I wanted. Content path. And then, you know, I tell you, over the weekend, I'm going to rename this directory to plugins because I did it just for whatever, we'll just say S&G. But see, components, that's what I called it right now. So I'm going to do components. And then basically the plugin name, like I said, I'm flying without a net here. Plugin name dot, and that's dot PHP. So let's see if we're remotely even thinking on the right lines and seeing if that actually works, that it's connected. Now I'm going to run that process from when you first load up your scene, so it'll already be loaded, all the plugins that are loaded. So it's not going to be at this state, but right now this is what triggers it. So, and we have an error. Okay, so let's see. I'll have to double check, see if I got the path right. Uploads content components. multiplayer PHP line 8. It didn't like the line in the code. Hey, that means it tried to execute the code, which is a good sign. We did get that far. Okay, so it didn't like line 8 in my plugin file here. And of course, it's this line. Okay, so I've got to double check. From this point in time, let's, just for now, require once. I'm pretty sure that's already loaded, but because of the process that it loads everything, I'm not positive. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate you hanging out with me and everything else. And like I said, Monday's the big day. We're going to release it and do a code walkthrough and everything else. So definitely, thanks for joining us. And okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm basically going to try adding in my admin code. No, see, the admin code's already loaded because we already got the scene loaded. We should have been able to call this class. Let's double check what's going on here. Okay, so okay, so plugins require once here. It didn't like something with that. Yeah, I talked. Okay, so I think it's that should have been the right path. And it should have done it. Well, let's back this off one step. And just to do it, because it could be the way I'm writing that line, I may not have the class in order to do that yet. So let's just do echo. Okay, script. This tends to work fine to bounce out the script this way. Okay, and I'm going to say loaded multiplayer. Let's see if that shows up in our console log. That would tell us if this page ran and if it's just a problem with my function that I'm trying to do outside of that. Plugins, all plugins, and it loaded multiplayer. Okay, that's fine. That just means that the class wasn't loaded for doing the other piece. I'm going to have it load these classes already before it gets to this point, so that's not when they're going to be running, so that's why I didn't do a lot of changes in that direction. But the idea would be I'm going to run it on the load up so that when you go to admin page, it automatically loads up right after the rest of the admin menu goes in. It'll put it in there, and then it sorts it by that number order and then displays it. So I'm going to make sure that it's being activated in the right place that it needs to be. So by doing that, we're going to be able to do it. But notice this code was executed from a plugin that we just loaded by telling it to activate. So the next part would be if I deactivate it, and then if I do the same thing again, I'm going to go through here, tell it this, and load that. Oh, it said loaded multiplayer. Okay, we're going to make sure that it only happens. Oh, I didn't even... I can tell you what I did with that one. Let's see. Okay, I'm not checking to see if it's active. I just told it to put active there. So what I need to do is if active equals 1, and here, and let's just see if that does that. I just want to see it work. Plugins, all plugins, and right now that one did not load when we did it. So it did not put it in there, and now if we activate it, okay, loaded multiplayer, it loaded while I did that. The scene is now active, it's now working. Okay, there we go. That's what we get. we get it loaded either the first time or second. And now what I would do is I would put this code that runs here, get plugin PHP, and I would put that in the startup file for when we go just before it does, or right after it creates the admin menu. So just to do that, we'll get this piece, not that one, it's get all plugins. And this just does a run through and double checks, but it's going to be right here. When it finishes doing this step, I don't want to pull it in this file. I'm going to see preload. I'm tracking it down. There's a place where I call this, and it's right here. Okay, so when I preload this, what I want to do is, do I want to put it right here? Yes. This one's plugins. And I'll put the require once on this also. Plugins. And in the same format we did these, I'm going to put this here and do plugins. And that's the proper place to load it. Actually, I want to load it right after the menu, because if you add something for the menu, I need to make sure your stuff gets added. I'll be playing around with where that sits and how things load and where if it can append to something that's already loaded and refresh the menu. I'll be doing all those kind of things shortly, so that's where that'll happen. But notice it's still in the head of the document, so that leaves room for whatever we have to do in the plugins stage. Okay, so running this now without having to click on that plugin link. Or did I break it? Did I just break it? Okay, I pushed my luck. I took one extra step too far here. I loaded this when it's not ready to do that. So I'm going to back off both those steps for now. And I'm going to say we did really well. We got pretty far, and we were able to load and activate plugins. But I need to do a little bit more looking in the code to see exactly when the right place for that to happen is. And so, okay, take out both those lines. Come on. Is the page coming back to me? There it is. Okay, so we'll play around with that more, but right now, basically, when I bring up this page, it shows what's active, and we're able to run things from there. So that's where I'll be picking it up tomorrow. And I want to thank all of you for joining me today, and it's been a pleasure. Had a lot of fun today, and we got the plugins activated, which means you're going to be able to run your code from your plugins in the site, working with all the stuff that I've done in my scenes. We'll put some hooks in there so that you can tell it where you want to load certain things, if they're scripts, if they're... we'll do some stuff. We'll get them all in place. So basically, we'll get that all ready to go. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for joining me today. And if you haven't yet, follow me, because on Monday we release the code, and we will... I'll do a code walkthrough, and we'll be playing around with demos, and it's going to be just a complete love fest. No, love the code. Yeah, that's what we're all going to think, right? Okay, so I want you to have a great day, and I'll catch you again tomorrow sometime.